Tell me why you do it.
Come on.
I want to understand.
Babe, I do it for you. You know that I do to protect you.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
I'm here. Your family is here. Your children have no father.
Well, I have to serve my country.
You don't know when to quit. You did your part. You sacrificed.
Wow,
enough
I just
for
got
somebody
chills.
else.
Okay, that's a clip of Sienna Miller and Bradley Cooper from the new film American Sniper, portraying the lives of sniper Chris Kyle and his wife Taya. Chris, as you all know, was gunned down here in Texas by a fellow veteran whom he was actually trying to help. And his widow Taya joins us now in studio to tell us all about Chris and, of course, the film. Good morning, Taya. How are you?
Good.
Tell us about Chris. Who was the Chris that Taya knew?
Now you're gonna make me cry.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna. No, you know what? Chris was. He was just one of a kind. Truly, there was nobody like him that I've ever met. He had the biggest heart of anyone I'd ever met. Weeks before I met him, I remember praying, like, God, just send me somebody nice. I don't care about anything except nice. And truly, he was the nicest person I'd ever met. And then he had this big personality and loud, boisterous laugh, and he had this crazy mix of everything, you know, respect and cowboy and youthful quality and capable, really smart, although he hated me telling people that. You know,
And good looking. I mean,
yeah, he was
wow.
hot. He was totally hot.
I was like, well, you forgot that part.
Yeah, totally hot.
And of course, he's been known to be one of the deadliest snipers, of course, and really probably changed the course of a lot of the conflict over in the Middle East for us, right?
How did he feel about that label?
You know, it's a good question because he really didn't want to be known as the most lethal sniper. You know, it didn't offend him, but he was more interested in the number of lives that he saved. And he always said if he could have known that number, that's a number he would have wanted to talk about. I mean, you know, publishers and publicity people, they're going to do the number of lives because that's the number they have and that's the hook. But that wasn't the number that interested him.
Now, you were always concerned about him making it home from the Middle East, and I'm sure you never could have imagined that he would have lost his life here. What was this like for you, and having to explain what happened to your kids?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because I do think that none of us is guaranteed another day. And so it's more the way that he died that I find so appalling. And of course, he was with his friend Chad Littlefield, both good husbands, good men, fathers, helping somebody. So that is, I think that's where it's so appalling and hard to believe, really. And what was your other part of your question?
Well, and your children, you have two
Oh, yeah.
babies. And I remember watching the service on television, and I lost my dad at a very young age, and I was thinking about your babies.
Yeah.
How are they doing?
You know, they're really good. They do say kids are resilient, but I think that, you know, my kids are so blessed because they had the time with their father, and they can forget certain things, but they don't forget the way that he made them feel. And he was the type of dad who held them to a high standard, but he also laughed with them probably every single day of their lives. I mean, literally maybe a handful of days that they weren't laughing. And so I feel like they're very blessed that way. And I also feel like God knows what's going to happen to you ahead of time. And in some really painful ways, I feel like we were all prepared in different ways. So, you know, my kids knew that their dad and I had lost some really good friends. They knew about evil. They knew about our faith and that we believe that people go to heaven and that we pray for their families. So in some ways, I think if it had to happen, they were prepared with very strong faith. And they knew that this was not something that would never happen, just something that we prayed wouldn't happen.
So in this clip, you were talking about how it was almost like you didn't want him to be over there fighting.
Right.
Was there some resentment in that he would want to go and be away?
Yeah, I think that the hard part about it is, and I know a lot of military spouses can relate, and even first responder spouses, that what they're doing is noble and it's important and somebody has to do it. For me, I think it was that he never had a break. So for 10 years, he was always either training for deployment or deployed in combat. And he was always deployed to a combat zone. And I think at some point, you know, it was twofold. It was not only the wear and tear on me, but honestly, I could see it in him, and he would have never quit. You know, he just wouldn't have. And he already had high blood pressure, and you know, you could see the physical changes on him. And so it's a complex thing because in some ways I wanted him to be able to do it forever, truly.
Right.
But it just didn't seem like our path was going that way.
It was
seemed
like, when is enough enough?
that they were going to wear him down. There,
Yes.
there seemed to be no end, even when they weren't supposed to do more than a few tours back to back. It was always, but it's Chris, let's do one more. Not by the guys that he served directly under, but by the, the people just outside of it making the decisions, people who had never seen combat. And I feel like I did it for both of us. I did it for our kids, and I don't know why. I've gone back over that decision a
Right.
number of times.
Right, I understand.
And he wasn't going to do anything. They wanted him to go officer. He wasn't interested in that. He didn't want to be in there if he wasn't, boots on the ground. So
Can we talk about the film for a moment and
Yes.
about what that process was like for you? And did you feel like what we are about to watch on the screen is a true representation of what you all went through?
I do. I feel like it is a very true, authentic representation. And, our story was always just our story. It was what it was, and it was very genuine, flaws and all. And I was nervous when they were first going to do the movie, especially without Chris being here, that it might not be authentic, and maybe they would fall into the stereotypes of what a cowboy is or what a Navy SEAL is. And they didn't do that. They really stayed very true to who he is, which I feel really blessed about.
And what is it like to have Sienna Miller play you? Like,
Did you ever imagine?
Okay, can we just say she's gorgeous? Like,
And you are too.
You're like, duh, of
well,
course
no,
she
thank
is.
you. No.
she's playing me. She has to be gorgeous.
No, okay, I wish. I was watching, she's like drop dead gorgeous, and I watched some of the footage, and I'm like, really, they had to dumb her down like that? Like, why can't she be in why can't she be in some like hot heels,
woke
you
up
know what I
like
mean?
this.
Yeah,
Right,
like, if you're gonna have somebody play you, you wanna like bring it up a notch, right?
Absolutely.
And
But-
she dropped her British accent and
She
did
did.
such a great job.
And
She
very
did.
quickly, though, because I know you have a charity event coming up
Yes.
you want to talk about,
Yes,
right?
yes. So Chris Kyle Frog Foundation, and it's at chriskylefrogfoundation.org. We're selling tickets to different premieres around the country, and Warner Brothers has been very, very gracious partnering with us. So you can get tickets, and all of that goes toward the foundation to serve military families.
Well, God bless
And first
you
responder
guys.
families,
So
yeah.
glad you're here today. I'm still kind of tearing up a
Yeah.
little bit. But American Sniper is showing exclusively on Christmas Day at AMC North Park. For ticket information, head over to thebroadcasttv.com and click on today's links. A must not miss film.